R36 handheld, 64 gigabytes. The R36 is one of the most common handhelds you'll see plastered all over Temu, usually advertised with a 64 gigabyte card full of 10,000 plus games. Underneath the marketing, it's part of the R36S family, built on a Rockchip RG35XXSP quad-core processor with 1 gigabyte of RAM. That chip makes it capable of handling 8 and 16-bit consoles effortlessly, and PlayStation 1 with almost no slowdown. Systems like Dreamcast, N64, and PSP are hit or miss. Some titles run surprisingly well, while others stutter or crash. Most units ship with 2 micro SD slots, one for the operating system, one for the games. The problem? The stock cards are often cheap and corrupt easily. Enthusiasts almost universally recommend swapping them out for a quality brand and flashing a custom firmware like ArcOS or Gelos. Those community builds unlock smoother menus, better emulator support, and more stable performance than the factory setup. The tricky part is that Temu listings are inconsistent. The R36 label covers multiple variants: S, H, Pro, Max, all with different specs. Some are legitimate RG35XXH builds, while others quietly use the weaker RG3326 chip that struggles past PS1. Unless you check carefully, you don't really know which one you're getting. That uncertainty is part of the charm and the gamble of ordering this handheld off a bargain site. RG35XXSP Flip Clamshell. The RG35XXSP is Anbernic's first true clamshell design, and it feels like a deliberate throwback to the Game Boy Advance SP. It has a 3.5-inch, 640 by 480-inch PIS screen with a crisp image and great viewing angles, paired with an all-winner H700 quad-core processor and 1 gigabyte of RAM. That combination makes it significantly more capable than the older RG35XX line, easily running 8-bit and 16-bit libraries along with Game Boy Advance and PlayStation 1 titles without breaking a sweat. Even some Nintendo DS emulation is possible with tweaks, though it's not perfect across the board. The flip design isn't just cosmetic. It adds a hall sensor so the device can automatically suspend when you close it, making it more convenient for pick-up and play sessions. Anbernic also included HDMI out, so you can connect it to a TV and use it almost like a mini console, complete with USB controllers or Bluetooth gamepads. Unlike the Temu generics, this one comes from a reputable brand with consistent build quality and reliable buttons. Dual micro SD slots give you room to expand storage or separate firmware from games. For anyone familiar with Anbernic, the RG35XXSP feels like a natural upgrade path that merges nostalgia with functionality, while avoiding the gamble that comes with many off-brand listings. RG40XXH 4.0-inch IPS. The RG40XXH is another Anbernic handheld, this time in a vertical form factor with a slightly larger 4-inch IPS display. That bump in screen size makes a real difference for long play sessions, giving retro titles more breathing room while still keeping the device pocketable. Inside, it shares the H-series hardware family, with an all-winner H700 chip and 1 gigabyte of RAM. This setup strikes a balance. It breezes through 8 and 16-bit consoles, handles PlayStation 1 with ease, and can even manage light Nintendo 64 or PSP games, though heavy 3D titles will push it past its limits. The RG40XXH is well regarded for its controls. The D-pad is accurate, the face buttons feel responsive, and the addition of dual analog sticks makes it more versatile than some of Anbernic's smaller units. Like other recent Anbernic models, it supports HDMI out, USB-C charging, and Wi-Fi, giving it more functionality than the generic handhelds flooding Temu. Software-wise, it ships with a Linux-based front-end that's simple to navigate. For players who want a vertical-style handheld with solid build quality, the RG40XXH stands out as one of the more dependable options you'll actually find on Temu. RG36 Pro handheld. The RG36 Pro is where things start to get confusing. Unlike the better-documented Anbernic line, the RG36 Pro is a Temu special. Its specs and internals can change depending on the seller. Many units marketed under this name are based on the older RG3326 chip, a processor that was popular a few years back but has since been surpassed. That means it's excellent for 8-bit and 16-bit consoles, Game Boy Advance, and PlayStation 1, but it struggles heavily once you step into Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, or PSP territory. Some listings even exaggerate its power, calling it a Pro when it's barely different from an entry-level R36S. One feature you'll see repeated is the use of dual SD card slots, which is handy for keeping firmware and games separate. But just like with other Temu handhelds, the included cards are usually cheap knockoffs that can corrupt easily. Enthusiasts often recommend swapping in a quality micro SD and flashing a community build like ArcOS if the device is supported. The main issue with the RG36 Pro is inconsistency. Some sellers push clones with misleading photos. Others bundle it with weak emulators and bloated ROM lists. If you're lucky, you'll get a solid budget device for classic gaming. If not, it becomes a cautionary tale about trusting the Pro label too much. Retro portable handheld, 400-in-1 style. If you've ever seen those brightly colored handhelds that promise 400 games in one, this is exactly that category. These systems are usually built around old Famiclone hardware, meaning the internals are designed to mimic an NES or Famicom, rather than emulate multiple platforms. The result is a fixed library of simple 8-bit titles, often including hacks, repeats, or off-brand variations of classics. For example, you might boot it up and find 10 different versions of Contra, with only slight differences between them. Most of these devices feature a 2.8 to 3.5-inch screen, rechargeable batteries that are closer to toy grade than console grade, and sometimes a composite AV out, so you can plug it into a TV. The build quality is bare bones: light plastic shells, clicky buttons, and screens that can wash out at certain angles. They don't run custom firmware, and there's no expandable storage. What you see is what you get. What makes them appealing is the ultra-low price and nostalgia factor. They're more toy than serious gaming hardware, but for under $20, they're a quick hit of retro fun. Still, they're nowhere near the performance or versatility of the R36 and Anbernic devices Temu also carries. V10 Retro Handheld. The V10 Retro Handheld is another budget device you'll run into on Temu, and it usually looks like a simplified Game Boy knockoff. Most units feature a 3-inch screen, a lightweight plastic shell, and a built-in library advertised as several hundred games. In reality, just like the 400-in-1 devices, many of those titles are duplicates or slight variations. The hardware itself isn't running real emulation. It's a basic system on chip that can only handle simple 8-bit titles. That means NES-style platformers, puzzle games, and rudimentary action titles are about as far as it goes. Despite the limitations, the V10 is designed to be eye-catching. Bright shell colors, oversized buttons, and straightforward menus make it more toy-like than console-like. It doesn't typically support HDMI or TV out, so you're locked to the small screen. Battery life is modest, and in some cases, these handhelds still use removable AA-style rechargeable packs rather than standard USB-C charging. Where the V10 differs slightly from the 400-in-1 clones is branding and shell design. It's usually marketed as a retro FC handheld, leaning into the nostalgia for old Nintendo aesthetics without actually delivering that experience. For collectors of oddball handhelds or people looking for a cheap novelty, it's fun, but it's far from a serious option for retro gaming.